Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. A year's work, and it's over like that. So, first of all, I would like to thank Sharon and Ryan. A gig like this, a job like this takes a village, and I can't imagine doing it without them. So, if you see them in the halls, thank them very much. They're good people. Ich habe genug, a timeless journey. The following will be my reasonings and methodology for creating a new edition of this renowned and beloved cantata, as well as a history of the composition, genre, and the composer. Uh-oh, make you go. Okay. Bach lived from 1685 to 1750, primarily in central and eastern Germany. He was born in Eisenach and worked primarily in the towns of Köthen and then Leipzig. Bach's life encompassed only about 130 miles from where he was born to where he died. And if you think about that, that's from here to Charleston. Maybe the greatest composer ever to live lived from here to Charleston. Sorry, guys, I'm having trouble. One of his duties when he moved to Leipzig in 1723 at the age of 32, he was appointed cantor at the St. Thomas Schule, and this was the most prestigious Protestant musical position in Leipzig. And one of his jobs was to compose weekly cantatas that corresponded to the liturgical year cycle. He composed 3 complete cycles, which is over 200 cantatas. According to his oldest son, he actually wrote 5 complete cycles, so we seem to be missing about another 120 cantatas. The amount of music he wrote is just astronomical. Ich habe genug was composed in Leipzig in 1727 for the Feast of the Purification of Mary. The original cantata was for bass voice and strings with oboe, which was in the key of C minor. And 4 years later, in 1731, Bach made an edition for soprano voice and flute, still with strings, and this is in E minor. I refer to these as the bass and the soprano versions. The poetry was by Christoph Birkmann, a student of Bach's. Ich habe genug is almost 300 years old, and like much of Bach's incredible output, is still very much alive. The entire idea of doing this project stemmed from a class that both Ryan and I took with Dr. Reg Bain over the summer, a class called The Canons and Fugues of J.S. Bach. And we had to watch a film called Bach and Friends, which is about 25 different vignettes by some of the greatest modern musicians ever, from Joshua Bell to Bobby McFerrin, that's P.D.Q. Bach up there, the Swingle Singers, and they all talked about how eternal and important Bach is to them. And interestingly, they all use the present tense when speaking of Bach, as if he is still very much alive, which he is. Bach also is literally universal. In 1977, NASA sent 2 Voyager space vehicles to travel as far as they could into the outer reaches of space. It was decided that if they should meet other life forms, there should be some introduction to what Earth is and who human beings are. Accordingly, 2 golden records were sent, containing, among other things, 27 musical tracks. 3 of those tracks were by Bach, more than any other composer or artist. There is a story that while those in charge were deciding what music to send out into space, someone suggested, well, why not just send the complete works of Bach? To which Carl Sagan replied, no, that would just be showing off. As Bach is in outer space and considered very much alive by some of today's greatest musicians, then updating a cycle like this, which is 300 years old, seems totally within the realm of realistic possibility. Guitarists are doing amazing things with Bach music. Vocal ensembles like the Swingle Singers are taking their turn and adding their unique flair. What I did, which I will explain to you soon, is I updated this for modern instruments, the soprano saxophone, grand piano, and I created a different key which will be referred to as the tenor key. I wanted to do this, though, within the envelope of the Bach style. I didn't want to romanticize it. I didn't want to add Rachmaninoff or Mahler to it. It's still very much early 18th century Baroque music, and even though it's been updated, I definitely want it to still be early 18th century Baroque music. So what did I do to make this new edition? I had four main tasks. The first was to turn the strings part into a piano part, rewrite the obbligato wind instrument for soprano saxophone, find the right key for the tenor voice, and work on making the engravement of the score as legible as possible. Step one was strings to piano. The excerpt here is from the full score. The oboe part is on the top, three string parts, violin one, violin two, and viola, then the voice part, and at the bottom, the last string part. The modern piano had not been invented during Bach's lifetime. His keyboard instruments were the harpsichord, the clavichord, and the organ. That picture there is actually of Bach's harpsichord. The modern piano was probably invented closer to 60, 65 years after Bach had died. And the big difference between the keyboards of Bach's time and the piano are sustainability, dynamic contrast, and range. The sustaining element is the one that I had to be most careful with. If I were to use too thick of a realization for the piano part, it would get very muddy and thick and take away a little bit of the character of both of the music and of the intended style. The score on stage right is the full score, photo from the previous slide, while the score on stage left is from my edition. I took the four string parts, and from that I wrote a piano part. The four became one. Often this was somewhat akin to putting together a jigsaw puzzle. Some pieces, some excerpts like this part, fit together rather easily and made sense. The cello became the left hand, the two violin parts became the right hand, the viola was put in the middle. Others I had to try various voicings to have a piano part that worked well and was fluid. The sustaining ability of the piano also meant that I did not have to repeat the ground bass note on every count. You can see the cello part drones that D in its score, and in my score up a step, just played once. The piano does the rest of the work for me. The next step was to turn the oboe part into the soprano saxophone part. Much like the modern piano, Bach was not alive for the invention of the saxophone. He had died about 90 years before Adolf Sax invented his instrument, and fortunately for me, the timbre and the abilities of the soprano saxophone are quite similar to that of the oboe. They both have a beautiful tone, great facility of melismatic passages, and the ability to sustain as well as dynamic contrast. This part of the process was basically a cut and paste job, although I had to take into account blending and range issues. Ryan was very helpful with this part. Again, a project like this takes a village. The reason for using a soprano saxophone was, one, a version already exists for oboe and flute. Two, I wanted to put a modern flair on this and use an instrument that's not often associated with Bach, and think it should be. The entire cantata has a strong, unbreakable key relationship. I could not pick and choose the best key for aria number 1, the best key for aria number 2, etc. To do that would be to go outside of that envelope. The original key in C minor, the soprano key in E minor, I wound up splitting the middle and went with D minor for what I'm referring to as the tenor key. Although there is no reason why this key would not be very successful for a mezzo-soprano or even a soprano. And the reason for this moderate key of D minor for the tenor voice is I wanted the voice to have the ability to sing within the character of the music and the text. The higher soprano key, E minor, creates an uphill battle against the intimacy of the music. I'm going to show 3 examples, one from each movement, that show the difference a tone down makes, not only to difficulty level, but more importantly, the ability to sing within the appropriate sentiment. This is the first passage the singer sings in the entire cantata. In the first excerpt, in the soprano key, the minor 6th interval to the G natural immediately puts the tenor in a feet-planted, God give me strength, heroic sound, versus the more relaxed and intimate effect of it being a step lower. Basically, it's the difference between I have enough and I have enough. This is from the third movement, the lullaby aria. You tired eyes fall gently asleep. Down a step in the lower version, the tenor is able to allow the lullaby to come through in a peaceful, soothing, gentle manner. Up a step for the soprano voice, the tenor's got to make a pretty big turn often to get from that C to that G natural, and then immediately come right back down. And it can make it a little more heroic sounding than possibly you would want. And lastly, from the third aria, the text is, I am excited about death. And the run up to the A in the soprano key is sure exciting. And had the A remained longer than a teensy-weensy little 16th note, it could have been kept in the spirit of the sentiment. But frankly, it's really difficult, and it's very easy for a tenor to crack up there. In the tenor key, it still goes to a G. It's awfully exciting, but it gives the tenor a greater chance to be successful. This is also near the end of the cantata. The singer's been singing for 20 minutes straight at this point, so stamina definitely became a consideration. Vocally, I made minimal changes to Bach's original score. The primary changes I made are seen in this excerpt from the last movement. Both examples are shown in the tenor key. The top example is Bach's original. The bottom is from my edition. Here, as the singer is joyfully looking forward to death and being united with God, Bach drops down a diminished seventh from the B flat to the C sharp, and then continues the upward momentum. I decided to flip that interval to an augmented second and continue the upward joyful climb to heaven, going into the top part of the range, culminating on the G's on mich auf. This seemed very logical to me to keep with the excitement and exuberance of the poetry. The example also shows something else I use with some frequency, which is octave displacement or octave changing. Starting the phrase on a low A for the tenor is possibly possible, but it's not worth the chancing of it for that single note on the rather unimportant word I on a weak beat. There, in this instance and others, I started on a higher octave and dropped down a fifth rather than go up a fourth. A little inside baseball on music theory is intervals equal the number 9. So a perfect fourth ascending becomes a perfect fifth descending. A diminished seventh descending becomes an augmented second ascending. I'm keeping the same pitches. I'm just changing the route to get there. Sopranos have told me that this octave displacement looks very friendly to them as well. I avoid dipping into their chest voice or mixed voice too often for such an inconsequential moment in the score. The fourth step, making it easier to read, was a luxury that I had. And this was primarily for two reasons. One, most of the scores in today's world will be electronic, as these crazy kids and their iPads use electronic scores in increasing number. Therefore, I didn't have to be concerned with the price of paper or ink or binding, etc., that exists in a normal printed score. This score only exists as a PDF, single file, which can be emailed and seen on any device. The second thing that made this the easiest for me is I also could increase the amount of staves on a page. You can see here, this is from the Breitkopf piano voice edition. There are 5 staves on that page, 5 different systems. It gets very crowded. There's not a lot of space for singers to write the translation, for singers to write IPA symbols, breath marks, or anything along those lines. Here's a snapshot of my score from the same part as the score on the left. I'm able to only use 2 systems a page. I have that luxury. I was able to create more space for writing in notes and translations. And also, for those wondering, I used Finale for this project, and now that Finale is no more, I will be transferring it over to Dorico and Sibelius as soon as someone teaches me how to use those programs. 2 of the arias in this cantata are dal segno or da capo arias, meaning you sing up to a certain point, then you go all the way back to the beginning, and you sing about halfway and you're done. Very popular style in the early 18th century. I decided I didn't have to have the players turn back pages. I just wrote it out. Again, I wasn't worried about paper or ink or binding. So there's only one direction with the score. You just keep on pushing the right side of the screen. pianists will love me for this, because it's often the hardest for them to get back to the correct place as quickly as possible. So what am I going to do with this? Well, the first step is to talk to Ryan and his teacher, Dr. Lehman, and make sure I have their notes and thoughts on the saxophone part. And I'll do the same with my voice teacher and Sharon. I will take all the input, changes, ideas, etc., and I will put them in a finalized score. And then I'm going to give it away. I will submit it to a website called imslp.com and other sites for free downloads. The idea of trying to profit from this project doesn't pass the smell test at this stage of my life, and forgive my hokiness, but it was an honor to do this. Also, if it were to be performed again, it would most likely be performed by students, and it's wrong to make them pay for this, as they often have the least amount of money. The Mount Rushmore of composers. The students love to talk about the Mount Rushmore of composers. So here is mine: Mozart, Schubert, Schumann, and Fauré. Makes sense? I'm a song guy. But where does Bach fit into this list? Well, Bach sits above them all. It's almost unfair to put Bach on that list. Even other composers, and composers don't have the best track record of saying anything nice about any other composer, but even other composers praise Bach. Beethoven, the immortal god of harmony. Mozart, Bach is the father and we are the children. Robert Schumann, music owes as much to Bach as religion to its founder. And even Richard Wagner, possibly the foulest composer ever, referred to Bach as the most stupendous miracle in all music. If there is life out there, and they listen to the Bach tracks included on the Voyager space vessels, I believe they will hear the very best of what humanity can do. And that was true in 1977 when they were launched, and I believe it will be true in 300 more years. Thank you very much.